everybody. Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show, with a friend on the show today. Kat Connor has become her friend, even though she lives in New Zealand, and it's always a different day there. She is, well, I just think the world of her, and I always love having her on. She has written 12 crime novels. It's called the Byte series, B-Y-T-E. Definitely check the show notes to be able to get what she does. Start at the beginning. That's the best way. Anyhow, she's written what she says is the last, at least for now, of 12 novels. And this one has two different endings. So there's the purple book and the red book, and they have different endings. So definitely support Kat by getting both of them, and that's certainly also in the show notes. So, I mean, look, you're going to hear two people that love each other talking about things that are fun. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Kat. She name drops or name checks me and the Break It Down show in the book, too, by the way. How cool is that? So the show that we all love is also now in print forever. And ever, and ever. All right, cool. All right, it's Sunday. I'm not going to do a long intro here. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's continued to grow, and the show is going bonkers. If you're new to the ride, 5 live episodes a week at least. Plus, we do 5 podcast releases of the live episodes. Run about a month-long backlog. We have incredible people on the show all the time. So if you're new to us, just wait. You're going to hear something incredible. Even if you don't agree with it, the next show is going to blow your mind in a different way. Academics, athletes, spies, everybody. All right, one more last thing to say to you. We support Save the Brave around here. It's our home charity. It's where we put our time and effort into. If you would do us a favor, if you're at all charitable, and this is that time of the year when people give the most money, consider Save the Brave. Go to savethebrave.org, click on the donate tab, and put a small amount of money in there. That'll help us out. If you have something bigger that you want to donate, by all means, let us know. We would love to take that and put that to work helping save veterans' lives. All right, one more thing to say to you. Here comes my very good friend, Kat Connor.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Kat Connor, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
And now, the Break It Down show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
I always say this, but I always say it because it means a lot to me, and I want you to hear it, Kat, and I also want other people, around the world to hear it. It's wonderful to have a friend who lives in New Zealand, and even though we've never met in person, we've talked, gosh, it's got to be for hours and hours now, because we've done shows, we've had conversations about what you're doing, what I'm doing, all these things, and it's just remarkable to be able to share these moments across a timeline. Like it's Saturday where you are, it's Friday here.
Yeah.
And so it tickles me to be able to do this and to just, I just love it. And I always appreciate the guests when they come on, but guests, friends, and just taking your time, it just means a lot. So thank you so much for coming on the Break It Down show with me.
It's always fun talking with you, Pete.
When we first had you on, John and I, you were like, oh, I'm kind of nervous, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I going to say? We're so far past that now.
We are so far past that. I was like pretty cruisy this morning. Didn't even bother me at all, apart from getting up at 5 so I could actually get showered and not sit here in my pajamas.
Right. And have you had a nip at all yet today?
No, I did quite a bit of tequila last night though. So
yes. I too had some extra beers, and then John and I got up at 4:30 in the morning so we could go work out at 5:30 and work out pretty hard at Diablo Barbell. Shout out to Ted. He does a great job over there. He builds champion lifters, and so I was there. I'm just the guy from out of town, like I'll move that, sure. Anyhow, the day started early, so I took a nap early, and I love a morning nap. Anybody knows me knows I love a morning nap. So for those that don't know, Kat has written 12 books in a series called the Byte series, Vaporbyte, Terabyte, Octobyte, Byte, whatever, Sharkbyte, Lunabyte. I don't know. It's sort of the Sue Grafton of biting,
It gets a bit like that. I'm like coming up with names going, okay, well, how do we tie this to computer tech and to the theme of the book? That gets tricky.
Yeah.
Because we sort of run out of bites early on. So
yeah. Did you ever do a dog bite?
No, I did a
Oh.
snake bite though. Did a snake
Okay,
bite
that works.
in
Yeah.
reference to the drink, not
Right.
the animal.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Hey, as long as you can tie it in. So let me give the audience some background because, again, this is the wonderful thing about what makes internet and social media great. We meet because of Mark Valley, and you've wonderful, and I love it. You've asked me several times to read things that you're writing because of my background in espionage. Because I know the feeling, I know the words, and it's not that I know exactly what people would say. It's more like they wouldn't say this, or they would say this in a different way. And then you just take that and you receive it. You go message received, and you smooth out these details. I think, I don't know how she's going to fix this, but you do. And it comes out so great. And I really try to stay out of the way of what you're doing. I only try to point those things out. And it's very rare that I even find anything that I can really sink my teeth into.
Your notes are fantastic though. Like with
Thanks.
Vaporbyte, that I so appreciated it. And it meant that I could go back into it and go, okay, now we've got this new guy.
Right.
Who was at the end. As you know, there was a very familiar name at the end of that book. I pulled him into the area that we were talking about and popped him in there so that Ellie had a go-to guy on the inside who could fix what she needed fixing. Yeah. And that was so much fun. It was like, yes.
Yeah.
So
are we going to spoil the surprise, or we're going to leave it a surprise, right?
You can talk about it if you want to.
Well, I mentioned it in the episode I did, the last live episode I did with Jeff and Brian. They write thrillers. Their series is called Collateral, and they're now writing what's his name? I can't remember his first name, but the Web. They're writing for Web, and they're writing for a bunch of things because they've reached that level. Yeah. And we were talking about all the neat things they get to do in the book, and I'm like, oh, check out what Kat did. And so for the audience, if you didn't hear that episode with those guys, with Brian and Jeff, Kat mentioned the Break It Down show and me in the right towards like the last chapter, maybe, right? That's super fun.
Yeah. Let me just check. I think it's the second to last chapter in the red version.
Okay.
It is the third to last, or maybe fourth to last in the purple one. But you're in both. I mean, nice. that was really fun getting that in, and just trying to think, how would she calm down right before we know what happens next? No one else does. Sorry, folks. Right. But she needed to just get into her zone and not think about her kids, not think about anything that was going to put her off. And I went, hey, Break It Down show. Why not? Why not spend 10 minutes listening to something?
I love it. I love that, just the story device. And obviously I love it because you're mentioning the show and me and I think that's just fun. But
it is fun.
You're right. There is often a time before a mission where you have to set your mind to the work at hand, and it doesn't matter if it's dangerous because it has to get done, and you have to be ready for everything. You're right. There's something like that you do, whether it's listening to a podcast, some music, a moment alone, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it every mission. I like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Calm down, and then let's go.
Just breathe, get it done. Yeah. So I figured that would work for her, and especially the way we tied that other guest of yours in, because that ties back to something that happened at the beginning of the book.
Right.
The whole pancake thing, and I thought that just brings those bits together. Yeah. And it's not just her husband that is like, man, the only thing you can do is make pancakes. Everybody knows that she can only make pancakes. That's her thing.
Okay.
Just a quirky thing.
You alluded to it. Let's dive into this without ruining the ending of this book in the series.
Yeah.
There are two different versions of the end.
There are. I know. It's cool. It's like I wrote the original end that you've read. You've read that book. And I went, this is fantastic. This feels right, because I saw the end about 5 books back.
Okay.
I saw a particular scene. I just didn't know how it got there. And then I went and I got my ISBNs from the National Library, and they sent me 2 Kindle versions. And I went, okay, what if I used them both? What if I wrote 2 endings? And I ran it by my editor and I went, should I do that? And she went, just do it. And I went, all right.
Yeah.
So I did it. So one book ends the way you know it ends, and the other book takes a little bit longer to get to the end and ends differently. In fact, it's quite open at that end. A lot more happens. There's a scene that I saw, and I ended up using it like exactly as I saw it years ago. And I went, okay, cool. But that's not the point where it ends in the purple book. The purple book gets a little bit more, you're not quite sure, I don't think, how it ends.
Okay. So there's a purple book and red book. Right now on the screen is the link for the red book. And if you go to, and there's the link for the purple book. And if you go to Smashwords, you can get either version. I promote the Amazon one because, hey, they're going to give us a couple of extra pennies when you do that. But if you bought them both at Smashwords, or where else can you get the book besides Amazon where both versions are available?
Apple, iBooks, so Kobo, Nook, everywhere but Amazon has both books. I know, because Amazon wouldn't let me have both books. So
even though you have 2 ISBNs.
Yeah, I know. So this one is the first time this cover's been seen in public.
There it is.
Because it's slightly different.
Worldwide premiere.
I know. The print cover is slightly different to the e-versions. You've got the glitter. You've got glitter.
Yeah.
Because my daughter said you can have glitter, so now we have glitter. And then there's the purple cover for the print, and that is slightly different again because glitter.
Glitter. Yes.
Because if I'm going out like
is this the daughter that's grounded for the rest of her life?
No.
Okay, good.
She actually pulled her finger out and did everything I asked.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's get back to these endings. So, yeah, it's interesting when you think about, you have multiple endings to a book, and I guess does that mean from here on out, like I'm assuming you're writing another Byte book. Do you have to write 4 endings down for the next book? Like you have to have the purple, the purple reality, and then the purple alternate reality, and then the red, and then the red secondary.
I think I could do that. That would be really fun. I could.
Boy, yeah.
I could just
it would
go
just
pick
cascade out.
Yeah, it would just. Exponential growth of the ending. It'd be great.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of my kids, my youngest, the one who is grounded forever, asked me a couple of years ago if I could write an alternate ending for Terabyte, which is book 2. And the reason why she wanted an alternate ending is because she didn't like that Ali's first husband is killed. He's killed at the end of that book. And I said, no, I don't want to. I don't want to. And then this time around, because I was allowed to, and I could do it, and I had these things, and I went, damn it, I'm going to do it. So now we've got the alternate ending. And there is a little bit in there. We do find out a little bit more about her first husband and who he really might have been, because, there were lies. What does Brian say there? If I buy the purple version, does it have the red ending plus a bit more, or totally different ending? Totally different ending.
Okay. Yeah. Totally different ending.
Just choose which color you like. Go with that.
Yeah.
Pete read the red one.
and I got to say, and I think I gave you the quote. I think it's your best book that I've read, and you are right. And it's so true. You're right on the razor's edge of reality. Like, it's just, did this really happen? It's
scary. That was
it's
scary.
super scary.
Yeah. And there's more coming out now. That's like, I read a report the other day and I went, oh, I was even closer than I thought. And then I'm like, maybe I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
Getting
Quit
a little bit
predicting the
too
future.
close. Yeah, well, I've done it before with a book, but I
Mm-hmm.
pulled that whole section out because I went, no one's going to believe a big earthquake in Christchurch. So I ripped it
Right.
out of the third book, and a month before that book released, massive earthquake in Christchurch.
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
like, should have left it in. But at the
Should have
time,
left it in.
no one would believe it. They'd believe it at Wellington because, Wellington's shaky town.
Right.
But so there's little things I've done over the years. So yeah, maybe I should stop predicting.
No, keep predicting. It's fine. It's going to happen anyhow.
Not Kazamas, yeah.
Right. But let's talk a little bit without spoiling the book. Let's give everybody kind of the premise and on why it's so that razor's edge between reality and fiction.
Right. Yeah. Well, this book follows on from Vaporbyte. So if you've read the 10th book, sorry, I've got noisy birds. Vaporbyte was when they discovered the Q pathogen was released by some terrorists, and it never really took off. It was a bit of a failed attempt.
Mm-hmm.
This book, Vaporbyte, is where they discover that there is some state-sanctioned terrorism going on, and someone has taken this pathogen and they've enhanced it, and it's now deadly. So what Ellie has to do is, she has to stop it, basically. Right. She has to pull together some friends, some new friends, some old friends, and stop it.
Some of Ellie's friends that help her are always dead people.
Yeah. She has a great support system of dead people.
Talk about that, though. Like, what does that even mean? Because someone who hasn't read the series, they have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, they have no idea. Yeah. When Ellie loses a team member, because those teams are so tight, and they've been tight from day one. They are really a tight-knit team. They just about live together. When someone dies from that team, she kind of keeps them with her. I don't know how she does it, but she can see them. So she sees dead people.
Okay.
So that's just, I don't know. That's how it is. It's cool.
I'm trying to work these damn camera buttons and I keep pushing the wrong button. Okay, so she sees dead people and they help her. They're very close people. But what kind of help do these dead people offer from the past books or whatever?
Sometimes they actually see, well, I think what they actually do is point out what she already knows and what she's already seen and what she's figured out for herself, but she doesn't particularly trust herself. So they just help her to see it. So like, she's really good at noticing what's going on around her, but maybe not accepting what she can see. And if someone who's dead can pop up and say, hey, you're right, this is what's going on, she's more likely to listen. But she also has a little bit of a special skill when it comes to dead bodies, which developed, I think, in Psychobyte.
Mm-hmm.
While she was pregnant, she discovered that she could actually see what they saw right before they died.
Useful tool.
That became kind of fun because you can't really, how do you tell that to someone? How do you say, hey, this is the person we're looking for because the dead guy showed me?
Yeah.
It gets a bit tricky. So she had to sort of figure out how to do it.
First off, I want to, you got your marquee. Spelling your name right for once. I always have to spell it 3 times. Like my brain refuses to spell it the right way.
Yeah, there's no E. Yeah, always a no.
But it's always good to have your name in lights, and I'm going to take a fancy picture with that by the water probably later on today. Anyhow, is that capability that Ellie has, is that completely fanciful, or do you find that there's some truth in that? Where and maybe it's not a direct imprint from some dead person to you, but do you think that that's possible, that someone has that kind of intuition, empathy, connection?
Absolutely. There's more in heaven and earth than we know about. And our brains are amazing amazing tools that we don't fully utilize. So there's no reason why that can't happen, I don't think. I mean, there are lots of people out there, and I can do it a little bit, that pick up whatever and know things that are going to happen before they happen. If we've all had those deja vu things.
And there's also those like-minded things where it's almost like ESP. Like my girlfriend and I will have we'll both, and some of it's our pattern of life, but sometimes it's like, no, this is just too close, where we have the same thought. I imagine you and your man. I mean, he's in another country.
He is. I know.
Do you guys must have these moments too, where you're like, oh my God, we're thinking the same thing?
We pretty well always think the same thing. It's quite uncanny. But my oldest daughter and I will finish each other's sentences or say the exact same thing at the same time, and that's all part of it. I think people are linked, and I think people are linked a little bit more than they realize. In life, there's just stuff going on out there.
As an author, do you have to explain that to the audience, or do you just assume they'll go with you on the ride?
I assume they'll go with me on the ride. Every now and then I will put something in that explains how Ellie can do it. Like when she first started realizing she could sort of pick up on things, Kurt, being the doctor, put it down to head injuries.
Right.
And like some crossed wiring in her brain after head injuries. But when they discovered Mitch, her husband, could do it, and they could pretty well hear each other's thoughts, Mitch had never had a head injury, so they were like, what the hell's this then?
Right. Yeah.
And Dane as well. Dane and Ellie can do that. And it's just, I think, how they are. Their brains are just different. So every now and then I'll explain that they're on the same wavelengths, because that seems to be what it is. Like you and your girlfriend and me and Jeff, we're just on the same wavelengths.
Yeah.
So we pick things up pretty quickly, and it's funny.
It is funny, and you just let it be. And sometimes it's because you do the same things, you eat the same things, but sometimes it's like, nope, why are we thinking about that right now?
We can do it from different countries,
That's the thing. Yeah, like we might be on a walk together and have the same thought. I'm like, oh, funny. Like I'll say, hey, what are you thinking about? She'll say, I'm thinking about a red slide, and I'll be like, I'm thinking about a red slide. So it's weird.
Or we'll say it at the same time, and it's like, ha, here we go.
Exactly. And you let it be what it is. You don't have to make the thing mystical about it.
No.
But you feel like, of course, we're connected. We share emotions and space and everything.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the espionage piece. And just in general, I know you pick up things from the show, but how is your knowledge? Because the investigation side, you've been doing this for years and years, but you're adding more of the espionage part in. How has that process been for you, learning about that and then applying it to your fantastic imaginary brain?
So much fun. But you get to the point where you're looking at things differently. Like just normal everyday things are different, because I was writing it and I was thinking more, okay, how would someone do this? How would someone reach out when they can't do it directly? What's the best way to go about that? And I had a few conversations with people about it, and I talked to Mark Valley about it. Because we were back and forth, and I thought, okay. And he goes, hey, what about this? Yeah, that would work. And then you start spotting stuff. I think when your brain's thinking that way, you start seeing things and you're going, what was that about?
Yeah.
What was that person doing there? And it's probably quite innocent.
Right.
But not in my brain, not anymore. And I'm like,
not anymore.
No. But it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I like learning stuff.
Yeah, me too. When I think about trying to gather a piece of information that's not readily available and people don't want you to know it, I always want to come in the side door. You've probably heard me say this on the show 100 times, because, or back door, whatever it is, like you want to come in from a different angle so that you're not knocking on the front door. It's a cold thing. You want to come in through a different thing. So you have to meet the person who can introduce you to the person and transfer that trust. And it's it's a hard process if you handle it directly. But if you don't handle it directly, you have to be aware. I've got my hand too far. You have to be aware of what's happening around you so that you can recognize that door when it opens. Like, hey, this person doesn't know anything. Like, they may not know anything, or maybe you haven't sensed what they know because they know all kinds of things. Like, what's valuable to you today might be totally different tomorrow. And so spend time with that person and understand who they are and try to, and all of a sudden, even if the person isn't valuable to you, you've done a better job of sorting through who they are, what they know, what they have access to.
Yes. And it's fun. And as a writer, you're doing that all the time anyway. You're constantly, I suppose, evaluating your characters and their motives and what they're doing. And I mean, my new Russian guy who popped up, I'm like, what?
Right.
What are you doing here? I knew who he was, but I'm like, thanks, Kathy. But I just I was like, I've never come across anyone related in any sort of sense to Misha.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I've got this guy in New Zealand going, hey, in Russian, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This is going to be fun. But he turned out to be extremely helpful and a really good guy, which I wasn't sure about. And when he first popped up, I thought, hey, this could go either way.
Right.
He could be the baddest of bad guys.
Yeah.
He may not be the most helpful Russian in the world, but it turned out that there was a reason why Misha trusted him, and he was a good guy. Shame what happened, but hey.
Hey, things happen.
Things happen. He was a nice guy. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Are Russians good bad guys obviously they're good bad guys here in America. I mean, not necessarily the communist version anymore, but just Russians in general, the oligarchs. Are they good bad guys in New Zealand for storytellers?
Yeah, I think so. But yes and no, because New Zealand's always had quite a good relationship with Russia. And of course there's spies here. It's what everybody does. There's everybody everywhere spying.
Yes.
For me, personally, I always had my Russians as good guys.
Okay.
Just for that little, I don't know, that twist, I guess. Everyone expected Misha to be a bad guy. He was never a bad guy. He was a fantastic person. He just happened to work for a different government. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't there with nefarious ideas at all. He was a good guy. But I've had a lot of Asian bad guys have popped up, and that's been interesting. And your usual terrorists,
Yeah, of course. You have to have usual terrorists.
One
of the things you don't do is you don't lean on a lot of American-style tropes. That's kind of why I asked that question, because not all Russians are bad guys.
No, they're not.
When you write a spy novel, there's typically not an actual mole high up in the CIA. You might have a bureaucrat who ties your hands, but a mole, come on, it's always a damn mole. But so you kind of go against that. Is that something that just is your style of storytelling? And look, sometimes you use that anybody can use that device, but you don't just lean on that every single time. Like, oh, and this guy's been turned by the Russians or by the whoever.
I try not to. I mean, that has happened in the books that someone has been there, and they've not been a high up person at all. They've been someone who's been close to Ali, which I think you get that a little bit more impact if it's someone close. Like, as you know, in Vaporbyte, someone was turned quite a number of years ago, and she doesn't see it coming. And that's interesting when that happens, because she thought she'd got past that. She thought she'd figured out.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here, and if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
Thought she'd figured out the whole thing, and she'd got rid of anybody who was near her that was dangerous. But one got through.
It's one of the things as a counterintelligence person when I read those aspects of the story. That's quality work, because if you're going to find somebody, it's an innocuous person because you don't want someone who's so big and that can be perceived.
Yeah,
you want the person. I'm gonna be unfair here. In America, one of our senators, a lady named Dianne Feinstein, she had a Chinese dude on her staff. I'm sorry, Chinese dude on her staff. First, he was a driver. Then he was her chief of staff on the West Coast and everything. And the entire time, the guy is a tasked agent,
Yeah.
And that's the perfect thing. I'm like, yeah, he's just a driver. He becomes invisible. As a spy, I'm like, that's the perfect guy. You give me that, and they're going to be a whole crew of people monitoring what this guy's doing, lightly tasking him, and just sopping up anything he can get his hands on. And then, hey, see if we can get promoted to the chief of staff. Woo, that's
perfect.
a dream career.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had early in the series there was a media liaison with Delta, and she was that person. She was she was just so well hidden that it took a bit to uncover it and find out why and who she was and why she was doing it, because she was a media liaison. It's not like she was anyone they were looking at,
Yeah.
And we had a new agent who was working for the wrong people. That was fun, and it was a mentor situation. He was involved with Delta because Ellie was mentoring him, and he turned out to be a nasty piece of goods working for some senator who was a bit evil. That was fun. That was really fun.
I have not read all of the books, but there are 10 or 12 of them. It is a massive body of work. I guess, are you ready to even think about a book 13? Do you have thoughts? Do you want to do something else? What's next for you?
What's next for me is a New Zealand set spy book.
Okay.
With a character that no one's met yet. Well, you've met. Right. we're bringing Dave with us, and we're doing a New Zealand set, actually set in Upper Hutt, because the Wellington region, we've got the government centre in Wellington. So I figured I can do some stuff here. It's not at all a Byte series book. It's nothing like the Byte books. This is a really, really homegrown book, which is I've started and I'm having a lot of fun with, but I need to launch this last book. I need Vaporbyte gone. I need to, I don't know, grieve maybe for all the people we've lost in the process of writing these stories, and then just let it go and move on, so I can have more fun with a different set of characters. And
so wait, are you saying you're done with the Byte series, or are you saying just for right now?
I as it stands right now, I am done with the Byte series. Yeah. Okay. I've got next year the last box set will come out, and it will have Vaporbyte in it, and there's just a long short story that goes at the end of that, that's going to be interesting because what happens. No one else does. So how do I write a short story to follow that?
Yeah.
I've written it. I know how I did it. Took some thinking, but I got it, and it actually coincides with Vaporbyte, the beginning of Vaporbyte. So it's not after it; it's sort of during. So that was really fun.
Yeah. Okay. So at least for right now, the series is effectively
finished
on the shelf.
Done.
Maybe you'll bring something back. Maybe you'll tell what I call an in between quel. Where between 2 and 3 this happens or whatever. Maybe something like that one of these times. We've talked about these kind of things before.
Yes.
But
yes,
this new spy series, It's different. I mean, FBI teams and going after terrorists, a lot of crossover, but it's different.
It's
So
different.
how are
It's
you
so
going
different.
to get what you need? Because you have such a big knowledge with the FBI and what they
I
do.
do.
You need to fill this new bucket full of knowledge. What are you doing to do that?
I know, right? Different. So different. Lot of podcasts, a lot of listening to what's going on. Because it's set here in New Zealand, it in some ways it's easier and in some ways it's harder
Hmm.
because it's so familiar,
Uh-huh.
everything is so familiar, and it's quite weird doing something like this in your hometown
Yeah.
where you know everyone, you walk down the street, everyone knows me. You're thinking about where this could take place and what they're actually looking for, and how does someone, because the premise of the story is there is a cryptographer and she's missing.
Yeah.
And she's private, she's not with the government at all, she's working in private industry, but she's gone missing. So Dave and Ronnie, who runs a PI agency, she is roped in to try and help find her. She's pretty good at finding people. She's ex New Zealand Secret Service. So they're trying to find this woman. So they're tracking where she's been, and people go, oh, Upper Hutt, people don't go missing. Well, they do. This is the thing. We've had people go missing and never be found again. So it's quite plausible. And there's a lot of land. Upper Hutt is a very big area. It's not overly populated, but it is a large area. So there's a lot of bush. There's a lot of places people could end up. But I know that this woman's actually been taken, but we don't know why she's been taken or, what's going on there. So I thought, well, that would be quite fun, just trying to find somebody in Upper Hutt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use the characters that you know, like, oh, I'm going to take a dash of this person or dash of that person and make this person my, whatever. Like, it's a winery region. Do you have a sage that's now a wine operator? Some former spy who's all knowing or whatever. Or do you have
That'd be fun. Yeah. What I've got so far, because I've actually worked with a couple of these characters before. Ronnie, I've worked with before. Ronnie Tracy is my PI character that already exists. She owns an agency up above our bookshop. This is where she is. Not really, but up above our bookshop. Turns out she owns the building, so she actually owns the bookshop as well. And the bookshop is used as a drop-off point.
Right.
Because she's got contacts and all sorts of agencies and spy places and whatnot. And so that's a drop-off point. People pass information through there and inside books. What fun, right? So we're using all kinds of things that already exist. She doesn't have any of Allie's contacts, so she doesn't have any of those really super helpful people that Allie's built up over the years.
Yeah.
Can't reach out to the Russians and go, hey, help.
Right. Yeah. Help me,
Well,
Russians.
yeah. Yeah, well, she probably could, actually, but as far as I know at this point,
right,
it's very
mm-hmm.
Kiwi. It is within the confines of New Zealand and a little bit of Australia because Dave's an Aussie. But very different than what I was doing before. I'm learning a lot more, so that's going to be fun.
Does
branch off sideways.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend a whole lot more time on this because I know you're in the middle of working on it. But does a book written about subjects that are so far from the U.S., and then it's not in London, the other place where you would tell these kind of stories, does that market, like, is there a market there for that? Like, will people in Australia buy it up because it's got an Aussie in it? Will people in America buy this thing? What are your thoughts on the market?
I think Americans will buy it because it's international.
Okay.
And it's set in New Zealand, and Yanks seem to like.
We do. We love it. We love it there.
Yeah, and we're pretty cool people. So I think there is probably more of a market for something that is based in New Zealand than something that isn't. And these days too, because of our bookshop, Kiwis are more aware of Kiwi authors, and that quite a few are writing home-based crime thrillers and home-based romances, and it's now a cool thing to do, which is nice, because for years and years and years we pretty well rubbished our own people. And
That's the way it always is.
Yeah, it is. And you're not as good as, how can a Kiwi be as good as Lee Child or whatever, The thing is, we've got Kiwis that are better. We've got some amazing talent in this country. We don't just play rugby. In fact, don't play a lot of rugby with COVID, so there you go. I think writing's becoming more appealing.
Because you already have an international flair, I know it's two countries, New Zealand, Australia, but is that truly like international, or is that just two sibling states that do things together, and you need to bring in more like an Asian element or something else to really make it international? Is there enough separation between New Zealand and Australia to really make it international? I guess what I'm asking.
Yeah, there is. Yes, that is the quickest answer there. Yes, we are completely different. We have a completely different outlook. Australians are very welcome in our country. We're very kind to our Australian neighbours, and we treat them rather well, but Australia hasn't always treated New Zealanders particularly well. So it doesn't go both ways there. And as far as the rest of the world's concerned, you set something here, it is international fiction. If you pull an Australian into it, half the world doesn't seem to understand that we're different countries. So
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I talked to someone in Florida one day who tried to tell me that there was no dateline.
What?
Yeah. Didn't believe it was summer in New Zealand when it was winter there. And which part of America is it? Like, get a map.
This is just a silly thing, but when I think about flying a plane from, say, California all the way down and around over to New Zealand, in my head, like at some point you're upside down, even though I know that's not the case. But I'm like, I just can't. It's like tacking in a boat and going upwind. I understand it. I know it's a real thing, but I cannot wrap my head around how you use wind to go against it. Like, I just can't figure it out. So,
and how do you not fall off the edge?
I know there's a deadline, though. I know that, or it's Saturday where you are, early in the morning and everything.
Yeah, it's Saturday, all right. Absolutely.
So, I want to quickly go back, just for those who are checking in now, just for the live audience and everything. I'm going to put the links on the page. Kat has written the 12th book in the Byte series. It's called Vaporbyte, and it's about a pandemic virus that gets out and all of the chaos that ensues for the FBI team.
Stopping it, really?
What's that?
So it's stopping the pandemic.
Yeah.
I was a bit kinder in my book than real life, I think.
Right, but this pathogen is extremely dangerous, and so they're battling it. The other thing is if you haven't already started in the Byte series, you can start in the beginning with the first book. I'm going to put the link up here for you can go to, if you go to the red ending on the Amazon thing, you can go to her entire Amazon author page and you can get any of the books, and they're all wonderful. I mean, it's such a treat to have all of you authors on, but especially you, because you're 12 books into this thing and now you're starting to smash out into something else. I'm so excited. Is your pace for writing books getting faster? Is it easier to assemble the pieces?
It's actually getting slower.
Okay.
I think it's just because life.
Right.
If I just trust myself to just sit down and write it and don't overthink it, then it is really easy to assemble the pieces. My brain knows what it's doing. I just need to let it do it. And writers are chronic overthinkers. So you write something and you go, oh yeah. Then 5 minutes later you're going, oh shit, what if this? What if that? And you're like, just leave it alone. Let it sit. Shocking, really.
You've written 12 books in a series. You're starting a new book that I'm assuming will become a series because that's what you do.
Yeah.
Are
it is.
you,
Yeah.
now that you're writing another book one, does your old author self like look at your early author self and go, I need outs, I need off ramps, I need characters so that I can really enrich the story? Not that the first book wasn't great, but you've evolved to become this writer who can see bigger things and don't have as many limits now.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly don't think about it. I just write
Okay.
the story, and I've always done it. And a friend of mine who's just, what is she on to? She's about to start book 9, I think today. I'll get her book 9. She has read them fairly recently, since she started with Kilobyte, the first one.
Yeah.
And when she got to the end of Terabyte, she goes, I can really see how you've grown as an author, which was interesting because I clearly cannot. I just keep writing.
Right.
I don't notice that, hey, my style is evolving. I don't see that. I just write the story. And I know Ali has changed over the years because I allowed her to grow with the stories. Or she just grows with the stories and I have no control. I don't know. Because things that happen in her life, she cannot be the same person in Vaporbyte that she was in Kilobyte.
Right.
She can't. There's no way she could live that life and be the exact same person. So maybe that happens too.
I think there's a lot of growth in a lot of directions that it's hard to account for. So we just put it on your development. But there's us understanding your style and, us filling in the page in our mind, like as we put this whole thing together, as you tell it, we start to get like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. Oh, that piece fits together, and then maybe you're like 4 books later, you're like, oh my gosh, that connects to this. And so it might appear like, because it's not me, it's not that I missed something or whatever. It's you, like you got better at explaining it. And maybe you did. Maybe you're like, I need to put this little kernel in there to remind them that back in book 5 that this had happened. Or
this has happened, and I don't even do it consciously, to be honest. It just happens. So little things will pop up, and I'll look at it and I'll go, oh, that's how that tied to that. I mean, I didn't know that before. Maybe I did, just wasn't aware. And there's one of the books, I think it's book 9, Metabyte, where there's a code inside a previous book. How did that bloody happen? You got to wonder. And when I opened, I thought, this is nuts. How's this working? This is absolutely nuts. So I opened up Eraserbyte, and it only works in the print version. You can't do it on the ebook. I tried. And I looked, and I could see it. And I'm like, well, I sure as hell didn't write it like that. Like, there's no way my brain went, ooh, in 3 books' time, you need to. 3 books' time, this is going to be an important page, because how would I know that? And yet, when I go back and I look at it, there's the code. There it is. It says what Noel Gerard needed them to know. And I'm like, okay, that's just getting weird. Not even going to look that closely anymore.
Well, but I mean, but that's also the value of creating something. I mean, then just in this COVID crazy time, and we're not doing the full lockdown thing anymore. But everyone was going to write their book. Everyone was going to start a podcast and all these other things. And you should do those things. But a lot of what you have to do and what you get out of it, you can't account for, because it's in the doing that you get those rewards.
It is in the doing, and I mean, I hear all the time, oh, I've got this great idea, I'm going to write a book. 90% of people who say that never write it, because it's hard. And they don't know where to start, or they just always want to write a book but never actually sit down and do the work. And that's what it's all about. You just sit down and you do the bloody work. And you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, you can't do it. You can't. I don't think it's humanly possible to write 100,000 words if you don't enjoy telling the story. Or uncovering the things that need to be told, because I don't know where things are going when I start. I had no clue.
And even if you do have a story in you and you aren't a 100,000 word storyteller, maybe you're a novella writer, or
That's
maybe
right.
you're a songwriter or a poet, or,
Yep.
you could be, if you can't write a book, what can you write? Can you write a I write a haiku for every show.
Yeah.
That's not because I'm good at it. It's like, it's just
It's
fun to
fun
do. And
though.
I'm like,
It's fun.
oh, what kind of clever or preachy or whatever kind of thing I can come up with. And I write it. And,
Yeah.
some will be better than others,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Write a short story. If you can't write a book, write a short story.
Right.
You can be really short. Could be flash fiction. It's almost a paragraph.
Yep. Yeah.
Tell your
Yeah.
story.
Hilliard. Yeah, you must have seen or heard some of the shows with Hilliard. He talks about writer's block. He's a screenwriter, and it's like, well, you can switch between scripts. So maybe it's not that script's time to get information out of you. Go grab the other script. Go for a walk. Lift some weights. Write one word. Can you write one word? Can you write 2 words? Just write 10 words. If you can write 10 words, then you keep writing and you write 100, and then that's good. And then go to the, you just keep pushing on that block. And even if you're not moving it much, you're like trying a different angle and all that kind of thing. But yeah, maybe it isn't a book. Maybe it's a song. Maybe it's archery.
That's right. Maybe it's something completely different that you need to be doing. But, if you don't try, how would you know? How would you ever find out what your thing is?
You spent years
don't always know.
writing books.
Yeah. Yes.
What do you need to get better at as an author? Is it the business side? Is it the marketing side?
Yeah. Marketing. I need to get better at the marketing. 100% better at the marketing would be useful. I mean, the writing is a bit I love. And that's true with most authors. They really embrace the writing and the storytelling and the learning of their craft and the research and all that, because that's so much fun. It's the selling, it's the marketing that's really hard for us, because our brains tend to be, they just go, oh, that's too hard. I mean, seriously.
Well, and it's a lot more rejection. If you can get to control your universe, but you're like, now I have to go compete with all of the other FBI storytellers. True crime is a big market. So is fiction crime, but you still you have to go out and get someone's attention, and you're like, I just want to write books.
It's exactly what that's like. Given a choice, no writer's going to go, oh, let's do some marketing. We're going to go, oh, I've got half an hour.
Yeah.
Crank out a chapter. Let's see where this is going, which is where the fun is. I mean, seriously, I didn't write 12 books because they were making me money. I wrote 12 books because it's fun. Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's fun. I had some great characters, and I really enjoyed it. I'd get up and go, so where's this going? I don't know. Yeah. Let's just do it and see what happens.
So there are two endings to the new book. There is Vaporbyte red cover, which you can buy on Amazon, especially. The link is in the show notes. And then also you can buy Vaporbyte purple, which has an alternate ending. And you can buy that at Smashwords, on Apple, Nook, all of these different places you can buy it, because there's 2 endings to the book. Plus, if you're new to this thing, this is the 12th book in the Byte series. It's called Vaporbyte, but there's Q-Byte, and there's a whole bunch of different bytes in the Byte series. So if you're interested in Kat's books, very affordable. Start at 1 and work your way through, and you're going to go on a fantastic ride. She's super knowledgeable about the FBI, and we've talked in the past, like, no, you are. And your connection to your characters is so real. They really become friends. You grieve when they die. You celebrate when they graduate and whatever. And you also have that weird, crazy, like your travel brain. Your brain leaves, and you're like, oh, you're going to make the left on, Jeff Davis Drive. And then over there is that Dunkin' Donuts. And you'll be like, I'll be damned. It's really there,
Yeah. I know, that's true. That is how my brain works. Like, I've walked all over DC. And I've been up and down every street, but I never got lost.
Yeah.
I'm like, crazy. Oh, I know.
And you're from New Zealand.
Oh my God, that's 7-Eleven, and on Blake Lane. I'm like, oh my God, here I am. It's a cool thing. It's a really cool thing. So when I was like, and there's a scene in Vaporbyte where something happens. So they're on their way home, and there's a little bit of an altercation with another car. Well, a sniper, a shooter, a bad guy. And I use an app. What 3 words? And if you haven't come across it, check it out. It's actually really cool. It was devised so that if you get lost somewhere, you can get your exact location, your GPS coordinates, and you can send that to emergency services, and they will find you. And I think it narrows down to within a meter or something of where you are. It's pretty cool. So I came across that and I went, oh, let's use it.
Yeah,
Because I'm always looking for stuff that Ellie would be like, hey, this is cool. We're going to use this. We're going to try this out. We're going to do this.
You are always adding wrinkles, technology in all the time. All the time with that stuff.
Fun. It's like I talked about banned apps, which really made me laugh because I knew that TikTok was banned already. Okay. So it was already a banned app within agencies. So when I had that, there's a scene in a hotel, people, you should read the book. There's a scene in a hotel. There's a young night manager who really shouldn't have been there. And Ellie says to her, just go and Snapchat or Insta or TikTok or whatever it is you do and leave us alone.
Yeah.
And then she has an epiphany and she's like, oh my God, is that how this person's getting the information?
Right. Yeah.
And she has them shut down, make sure that no one on her floor is carrying a phone with any of those apps on it.
Again,
so
razor's edge, right there by reality.
Right
That's
there,
literally
right
happening. Right?
Yeah, it is now, isn't it? And I was like, called that one.
Yeah, you did. Hey, we got a couple minutes left. Do you want to ask me any questions?
Can I don't know, Pete. I ask you questions all the time.
Yeah.
I
do
want to say something.
The audience doesn't know this, but we'll communicate, offline all the time about something.
Yeah.
Not like every day, but if we have something, we'll go on a long string and talk about things. And I'll try to communicate something to you that's not easy to communicate, and you take it and use it. Yeah, it's neat.
I do use it. I do. I love it. I like get my teeth into it, and
Yeah.
Now I have got something to say though. At the moment, if you go to Smashwords, 70% off the first box set.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it like $2 or something for 3 books, for the first 3 novels and Lost Highway, which is the long short that comes after the first 3. So worth looking at, and that lasts till September 15th.
So Smashwords, go to your profile page. I'm going to go there right now and put the link on the screen here. So I'm working on that now.
If you look at the box sets, I think on my profile, the first one is 70% off, which makes it really cheap. And I thought we'd do that because I'm coming on here today, so I've set it up last night, and it'll last till after the Vaporbyte launch.
Gotcha.
Just so people can start somewhere if they haven't already.
I think this is the right one. Eraserbyte, Psychobyte, and Metabyte. Is that right?
No, the first box set, volume 1.
I'm working on it.
You'll find it.
Trying to pull the link up, but it's a lot. You've got a lot of books, so it's hard to search it.
I do. Yeah, there's 3 box sets up there. There's 1, 2, and 3. So it's volume 1 that's on the sale.
Here we go. I got it. Yes, got it. It's the box set with the lady at the gun.
Yeah, lady with the gun.
I'm going to put that in the thing here. So if you're looking for that first box set, it's on special until September 15th. And that is at this link right here, Smashwords Books. Buy series /37541. And if you can't find that, look in the show notes and you'll be able to do that. And listen, you're supporting Kat, and Kat is she's a writer's writer. Her bookshop features New Zealand authors.
Yeah,
and so again, you're getting her passion. Yes, she wants to make money, but she does this because she enjoys it. And every time I read the book, Kat, I get a kick out of them. You do a great job, and I just want people to be able to have a similar thing. If you're at all into FBI type stories, if you like Stephen J. Cannell type books, Here you go. You know, I'm telling you, it's very
what's with
similar.
people,
I love
you
it.
know, I love my characters. I really do. They've become some really good, solid friends over the years. My characters.
Yeah.
And I'd love nothing more than to sit down with them all and just like go to Murphy's, you know, sit down.
Right.
Have a few drinks.
Vaporbyte, the 12th in the 12
Yeah.
series, the Byte series, the 12 series, 12 book series. This is the what so far appears to be the 12th and possibly the final. 2 endings, purple book, red book. Get them at smashwords.com and look up Cat Connor. There's Connor, Connor, Cat Connor.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I love that you've got birds and everything else. That we love tequila. You're just such a great friend, Cat. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Pete.